In this video, I'm going to talk about a concept called the triangle of priority. This is something that I have experienced with myself, experienced with hundreds of clients over the last 15 years, and training myself in the last 8 years of clients. And this is likely why you are not seeing results despite putting in a lot of effort. And the metaphor here is that the lion that chases two gazelles is a lion that goes hungry. And so the whole concept here is essentially going to be specialization and being able to choose one thing and make priority the actual priority. And priority, when you get to like the root word of it, is to make something like first, like put it first. So prior, something has to come first. And so you can't have competing goals. Otherwise, you're going to spin your wheels because it's essentially one body of water, two bodies of water clashing, and that's draining all of your energy as well. So just to kind of high level look over this. So there's aesthetics, performance, longevity. Aesthetics, you can think of as looks. It's a little bit more subjective. Performance is more numerical based. It's binary in how you look at it. Then you have longevity. Think about the lifespan of your joints, of your heart, living a long, healthy life. And so this is going to be someone that typically wants to feel more confident in their body. This is going to be someone that wants to perform and feel like they are capable. This is going to be someone that wants to feel at ease, that they are not going to pass at 50 years old, or that they're going to be able to walk without needing to use a wheelchair. So the first thing that you got to do is just think, okay, what is most important to me from just a motivation standpoint? And if you are starting a fitness journey, the number one thing I've heard of thousands of consultations is I want to lose fat, build muscle. Okay, well, why? What is that rooted in? And typically, once you get more clear on what it's rooted in, then you're going to understand what's important to you. For example, if you are someone that is tired of wearing baggy clothes, you look in the mirror and you suck in your gut and you're constantly trying to convince yourself that it's not as bad as you think, you're probably looking at more of an aesthetics-based goal where you want to look in the mirror, have photos be taken of you, and feel confident in that. So you can take your shirt off so that you can stand out in social settings, whatever that is. So that's the thing that is going to give you pride, give you confidence, whatever the emotion that you're going for. Performance, on the other hand, this is going to be someone that wants to lose fat and build muscle because their inability to get a certain mile time, their inability to get a certain number of weight that is on the bar. And this is going to be typically a performance-oriented community of either athletes, tactical athletes, so military, first responders. Those are going to be typically the people that I've seen and work with fit inside of here. And then longevity, this is the 45-year-old, 50-year-old dad that is pre-diabetic, that doctors told him, hey, you've got high blood pressure, and if you don't make some changes, you might not walk your daughter down the aisle. This is the person that's got bad knees, and if they don't lose weight, that is going to continue to crush their knees or maybe their low back. And so for them, they're like, hey, I just want to get out of pain, right? This is the person that wants to get out of pain. This is the person that wants to perform because it's tied to their job or their ability to make money and get respect. This is the person that is more, hey, I want to feel confident in my body. Now, if you are just starting a health and fitness journey, simply getting on the triangle is going to improve all of these, right? If you're a 250-pound man, 40 years old, just working out and eating healthy is going to make you feel more confident in your body because clothes are going to fit better. You're going to perform better because you're going to have the strength to go on hikes with your family on vacation. And then you're also going to do things like improve your insulin resistance. You're going to decrease inflammation. As you lower your visceral fat, that's going to improve a lot of the longevity markers as well. But where people start to run into issues is they start to drift towards, let's say, aesthetics, and they say, oh, crap, but I really still want X, Y, and Z. And here's the thing. You can have all three, just not at the same time. So what happens is someone's like, oh, I want to get really lean. I want to maybe, have visible abs, or I want to really develop my arms and my chest. But then at the same time, they've got this little bit of them that wants to run a marathon. And that's awesome. You can run a marathon and you can have aesthetics, but you can't have both at the same time. And the reason for that is because there's only so much time in the day to train. Your body, if you are trying to reduce body fat percentage, is going to need to be in a deficit, which is hard to train for a marathon and be in a deficit. It's hard, extremely hard to progress strength numbers and performance-based numbers when your body doesn't have enough calories because that is impacting your body's ability to recover. You're basically saying, hey, body, I want you to do the task of growing and developing muscle tissue, of improving all of these things with extra resources that I don't have because I'm in a calorie deficit. And so that's where what I recommend in this situation, and really the starting blueprint for most guys 30 or older, is going to be get 20% body fat or below. This is where longevity markers start to really improve. I've got other videos on my channel if you want more like data on this. But once you get below 21%, you're going to see visceral fat really start to improve. You're going to see metabolic markers, cholesterol, triglycerides, blood pressure, glucose, all of that start to really improve, because decreasing body fat percentage is one of the best things that you can do for your health. Energy toxicity is what causes so many different organs in the body to back up. That's what causes the buildup of plaque. That's what causes insulin resistance. That's what causes then the testosterone to start to dip. And it's like this chain reaction that starts with having too much excess body fat on your meat wagon. So getting body fat down to 20% now gives you kind of a choice. You can maintain there. As you get older, 20% is probably a little bit harder to maintain at 50 than it is at 30. But that 20% then allows you to say, okay, I want to actually really focus on aesthetics, at which point I would focus on trying to get to like 15, 16% and get that fat off of you, so that when you do, if it is an aesthetics-based goal, focus on then building muscle, because now you can go, and here's like other layer of this. There's a triangle of goals within aesthetics. Within aesthetics, there's different nutrition phases. So you have building, you have fat loss phase, and you have maintaining, which can be a number of different goals. Could be recovering biofeedback, could be vacation, could be simply that you just want to maintain your body, not track nutrition. But as you move towards this, so let's say you get to 20% body fat, okay, you've lost the fat. Now you say, okay, I want to focus on building muscle. Now, what's fun with this is you can also pair this with performance, because in pursuit of building muscle, you can say, oh, I want to improve my bench press, my squat, my leg press, my deadlift, whatever, exercises you deem interesting for you. Or at this 20%, maybe a little bit lower if you want to run really fast, but let's say you have more of a running based goal. Well, getting excess weight off you is also going to make your meat wagon less, have less friction in moving your body through space. So now you're actually able to be faster. You'll never see a elite runner carry a ton of body fat. One, because running is catabolic, it breaks down muscle. But also it's just simply easier to run if your car is built like a Toyota Prius as opposed to a Toyota 4Runner. So then you can say, okay, I've got to a body fat percentage that kind of checks off and allows me to maintain my longevity. The performance side of things, now you can go and say, okay, well, within performance, and honestly, there's probably 1,000 triangles inside here, but are you more focused on endurance? So we can call this like run. Are you more focused on strength, or are you more focused on like technical skills? So technical skills, if you're playing golf, that's driving the ball further. If you are riding dirt bikes, it's performing better and improving your times there. All of these things, though, are going to improve by getting your body fat percentage down. Even something like powerlifting, you don't need to have a ton of excess weight. It does help you build muscle and make sure that you are fully recovered, but eventually you get so far over here and just ignoring the body fat and aesthetic side of it that this can start to become a problem. You get a lot of people that are like, oh, well, I'm just focused on getting big. I don't want to be, what's the phrase? Victim weight, right? I don't want to be over 200 pounds. Well, if you're 5'9", over 200 pounds, you're starting to get to a point where your body fat percentage is putting you in a range where you are going to be more insulin resistant. That is going to impact your body's ability to be higher on the testosterone spectrum. And so you kind of create this situation. It's like, yeah, you do have what you need to recover, but you've almost taken it too far at that point. So again, there's going to be specific athletes. If you're in the NFL, you're going to have a higher percent body fat because it makes sense for you to be bigger. But a lot of those guys, once they stop playing, they change their diet, they change their training intensity, and they are actually able to come down in weight. Anyway, that's a side tangent. So the way I like to look at this, get the weight off, then decide, okay, do I want to focus on just maintaining? Do I want to focus on performance? Do I want to focus on building? And in doing so, you're going to find that what started out as you just being on the circle, you do kind of expand this. Now, I do want to also clarify that if you do want to get into extremes of these, it will move you further away. For example, performance, NFL athletes, Marines in the military. They're not concerned with longevity. They're taking mortar rounds and linebackers to the chest and getting concussed. They don't really care about longevity as much as paychecks, surviving, performing, operating at a high level. Bodybuilders, they want to be as lean as possible. They do not care necessarily what their bench is. Sure, it's an indication of being able to build strength and muscle and get stronger. But when they get on stage, they're not concerned about the size of their testicles. They're not concerned about what that's doing long-term health-wise if they are on steroids. And so you just got to kind of understand, like, okay, the closer I get to the extremes of one of these, the further away I get from this. Brian Johnson, big example, I think in the biohacking space. I don't follow him a ton, but it's just someone that popped in my mind. He's trying to live to 100 or 200, whatever it is. The dude does not care what his bench press is. He does not care what his mile time is. He doesn't care necessarily whether he's got nicely developed pec muscles. He's caring more about longevity. And so the last thing that I want to kind of lead in here with this is that as you get closer to one of these, it's going to require you to specialize more and more and more and give up some of these things. Now, the last thing that I'll say here is that you can also maintain a pretty high level of here, put this in place, build a really good foundation, and then start to work towards this. And the other kind of part with this too is like, probably the best thing you can do for longevity is building muscle, reducing body fat, and getting good sleep. So to a degree, like all of this stuff improves just by nailing and mastering the basics of health and fitness. But I'll use myself as an example. In 2020, during COVID, I decided I wanted to run a sub-3-hour marathon. And so I trained for 16 weeks, ran 257. So like I would put that as like here, performance-wise, I was trying to do something elite. I did not care necessarily what I looked like. I just wanted to cross that finish line at a time that I set as a goal. But then what happened immediately after the marathon, and I actually kind of like regret this because now my running is trash relatively to this, is I went full aesthetics. Hired a bodybuilding coach, put on 30 pounds, got big, got lean, got ready for a photo shoot. And it was around this time where I was like, okay, I also want to, do a bunch of heavier lifts. So squat, bench, deadlift, trying to get that to 1,000 pounds. So like in a span of 10 months, I went from a sub-3-hour marathon to being around 10% body fat and as strong as I've ever been. But I lost that performance because I specialized in this. And now what's nice with all of this is that built a pretty good cardiovascular base. Going through this process built a good amount of muscle on top of what I built in the 10 years prior to lifting. And so from a longevity standpoint, I've got a good amount of muscle to go and maintain for the rest of my life. I've got a pretty good base because I spent times on extremes of these to really emphasize like, hey, I want to make sure that I anchor this in place so that it's harder to lose. Like once you develop good mobility, it's really hard to lose it. Once you develop a good base, it's actually a better way to think about this is once you develop something, it's much easier to maintain it. And so big takeaway in all of this is you can have a lot of different goals. You can be very fit, but you're going to need to choose which one is most important to you from a motivation standpoint, from a fuel, like emotional motivation fuel. I would recommend getting your body fat down because it's going to, again, improve so many things, whether it's push-ups, pull-ups, mile time, longevity, metabolic health. Getting excess fat off your body is going to be the best thing that you can do. Then once you get to this 15-20% range, then you get to decide, okay, what now do I want to specialize? Do I want to just maintain? You can do that. It'll be a little bit harder. I would recommend focusing on building muscle and doing it in a performance type way, because that's going to, in a way, give you more ways to win. When you're focused on just losing fat to a degree, you're just looking at the scale, looking at photos, looking at measurements and how close fit and being like, okay, am I leaner? Am I leaner? Am I leaner? A DEXA scan is going to give you, by the way, the numbers that you want to tell you what your body fat percentage is, where your visceral fat is, where your lean muscle tissue is. So that would be a good thing to do once you start to notice some upper ab development. But then again, going in a performance angle, now you've got numbers to chase. And as you get older, yeah, you're never going to be able to lift the same, run the same, but it gives you a much longer runway of games to put. You can only get so lean. But if you're trying to run for a while. 5Ks, 10Ks, collect half marathon badges, whatever that is. If you're trying to get strong, you can do that for a long time. Like you can lift weights 60s, 70s, 80s if you want to. The longevity side of things, again, this is where it also becomes, well, what's the most important thing? If you are someone that is 40 years old, you got 3 kids, you don't really care about like looking like you wanted to at 22, well, then at that point, I would say, hey, get the excess fat off, get your blood work in a really good range. Make sure that if you need any kind of supplements to help with that, you get that blood work done to know what you might be deficient on. Do the work to improve that. And then the last thing I'll just kind of leave you with is kind of an acronym that I have seen play out over the course of these goals. So if aesthetics is your goal, nutrition is the number 1 focus, recovery is the number 2 focus, training is the number 3 focus. It's going to be dependent on the type of aesthetics you're going for. If it's like bodybuilding aesthetics, then obviously you need to train. But a lot of people are going to get to the body composition that they want through nutrition, stress management, recovery, and then just like moderate training. Again, like if you want big ass arms or giant glutes and quads, then yeah, you are going to need to train. But just remember, nutrition is like the number 1 thing for aesthetics, recovery, training. Performance, train. Like you have to train to get the adaptation to get better at the thing, especially if it's a skill-based thing. So whether you're trying to improve your squat, improve your drive, improve your tennis swing, improve shooting, right? Maybe you like, that's something that I'm getting into. You need to do the thing thousands, if not tens of thousands of times to develop the skill. And so that's going to be where it's like, you have to train. You cannot get around training. But if you are going to increase your training to increase the stress, to increase the body's ability to adapt to that, you have to recover. And then this is maybe for people sacrilegious, but like on the nutrition side of things, a lot of professional athletes in college, especially for me when I was playing baseball, nutrition was like, get it in, just like get calories in so that you can recover. A lot of professional athletes eat like trash. I've seen videos of like CrossFit guys that just eat whatever, because again, they just need the calories, they need the energy. They're training so much that they can get away with it. And then on the flip side, you have longevity. I would say recovery, and I would always think of recovery as stress management. Sleep is the number 1 stress management tool. If you're not sleeping, so many things get harder. Then nutrition, then training. Nutrition is going to enable you to maintain a good metabolic profile, a good body fat percentage. Recovery is going to enable you to not get into a point to where all of a sudden stress is causing your body to have to adapt negatively, especially hormonally. And then training, like still train, but you can just do videos on my YouTube channel that are 10, 15-minute Star Wars workouts, maintain and have great longevity, but having recovery and nutrition in place, like you can do that for a long time. So that's everything. That's triangle of priority. Now with one, again, I keep saying last thing, within all of this, in a year, you would think of this as phases. So let me see if I have, we'll just do this across. So like, let's say this is Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And this might be 6 months, 5 months, whatever, but we're just breaking into quarters. So this might be a fat loss phase. This might then be a maintenance phase, then a performance phase. Then this is again another fat loss phase. These might be longer or shorter depending on your goals, but you're going to want to choose within that phase, what are you focusing on for that periodization? So in this fat loss phase, it might be fat loss nutritionally and then strength training. Okay, awesome. You lose the fat, you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on maintaining my weight through nutrition, and I'm going to focus on, let's say, training for a Spartan race. Okay, now that's more performance oriented. Then you're here, you're focusing on performance, but you're also trying to gain. So you're trying to like build muscle. So you're like, boom, trying to beef up, put 10, 20 pounds on. And then you're like, okay, I'm feeling fluffier, so I'm going to go into a fat loss phase, go back to strength training. So there's going to be seasons for all of these. But again, first season to get the body fat off. It's going to make everything easier. Aesthetics, you're going to feel more confident. You're going to attract people you want to attract because you're feeling more confident. Performance, you're going to be able to move your meat wagon easier and control it. Longevity, body's going to be much happier with you. So comments, drop them below. Catch you in the next video.